The Acolyte premiere is finally here, and with 2 episodes in, I can say with certainty that this show is
a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
From establishing this new time period in the Star Wars galaxy with a brand new cast of characters and this huge mystery of what the hell happened on Brendok 16 years ago, this show is off to an incredible start. But we got a lot to get into, so let's break it all down. Episode 1, Lost/Found, opens with an opening crawl. Well, I guess not really a crawl, more like a standstill, but it says 100 years before the rise of the Empire, it is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries without war. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret. One of them, a lone assassin, risks discovery to seek revenge. So this opener not only confirms that this show is exactly 100 years before the rise of the Empire, but it also tells us that a powerful few are learning to wield the Force in secret. The first possible tease of many that we are going to get at Darth Plagueis in this show. But the episode opens on the planet Ueda. We've seen this countless times throughout the trailer, as this is where May comes to fight Master Indara. May is our main character. This is the first introduction to her. She is the titular Acolyte character. She is the lone assassin that the opening crawl is referring to. She arrives in this village where it already immediately feels like you are in Star Wars. The Acolyte got a lot of things right, but making it feel like Star Wars is a very important one. And for the entire 2 episodes, you feel completely immersed in the Star Wars universe. But May walks into a cantina and she walks up to a table where Master Indara sits. The first thing she says is, "We have unfinished business," immediately telling us that these 2 characters have met before. But what May is referring to is 16 years ago on the planet of Brendok. And we still have no idea what happened on that planet that night, but something crazy happened that will be explained at some point further down the line. And then she tells Indara to attack her with all of her strength. And the people around them start to laugh. Indara is stationed on this planet as a protector, as a Jedi, as a keeper of the peace. And some random girl coming in and challenging a Jedi Master is funny. But Indara says that she has no quarry with her, and she will not fight her. It is not the Jedi way. As Master Indara says, Jedi do not attack the unarmed. And May's response is, "Yes, you do." Again, referring to 16 years ago when something crazy happened on Brendok. And the fighting begins. May starts taking out everybody in this cantina, and we get to see this awesome fight sequence between May and Master Indara. This series took their time on the choreography and these fight sequences. It looks like it's straight out of the prequel trilogy, and it looks incredible. But throughout almost this entire fight sequence, Indara does not pull out her lightsaber. That is until Indara takes off May's mask and recognizes her. Indara asks why she's here, and May responds that she's here to kill her, as she uses the Force to push Indara back. And that is when she finally pulls out her green lightsaber. And the only way that May is able to kill Indara is with a distraction. She throws a knife at the bartender downstairs, and as Indara has to save him, May stabs her in the heart. Yeah, this show just started with the death of Carrie Ann Moss's freaking character, Master Indara, immediately setting the stakes ridiculously high as someone has just murdered a Jedi in the opening sequence. And as May walks away, we see Indara's body on the floor with her lightsaber lying next to her. I'm still confused as to why May is not picking up these lightsabers and using them, but tell me why you think May's not using a lightsaber in the comment section below. She goes downstairs to confront the bartender, to leave no witnesses. But she sees at the foot of the bartender is a child, so she lets him live, immediately proving that even though this bad character is killing Jedi, she's not fully evil, which could come back to be a huge point later down the line. We then cut to May's twin sister, Osha. Both of these characters are played by Amanda Steinberg, and I must say she's done an incredible job so far. But she wakes up from what looks to be a nightmare. She is now what is called a mech tech. They are pretty much human versions of droids that help fix things on ships. Think of R2-D2 and the astromech droids in The Phantom Menace. They all get sent out to fix the Naboo cruiser as they're trying to escape the Trade Federation. Osha's job right now is just the human version of R2-D2. And speaking of the Trade Federation, she is currently working as a mech tech for the Nemoidians. She picks up her droid Pip, a new droid that we've never seen before in Star Wars. Pip is kind of just a handheld droid. He does a lot of cool things throughout these 2 episodes as well. But alarms start to go off as Osha is called into work. She is met by her co-worker, Philic, and he says you could have come out with us last night to Nar Shaddaa, a little Easter egg at an underworld planet that's been around in Star Wars for quite a long time. They're being called into work on the shield generators that are being fixed, so they get in their suits and go out to fix the problem. While they're fixing it, the pressure valve explodes, and Osha has to go put out the fire. And while she's looking at the flames, she hears a younger version of herself saying, "May, what are you doing?" and screaming, "No, Mama." This is again alluding to whatever happened on Brendok 16 years ago, with the death of all of these witches. And yet we have no idea what happened. Osha finally comes back to reality and puts out the fire as a Jedi ship comes flying by. Now, these are the Jedi ships from the High Republic novels. There are a few details from this show that are direct references to the High Republic novels. Although those books take place about 150 years before this, a lot of the technology and some characters are the same. We get introduced to Yord Vandar and his Padawan Tassi Loa. Tassi Loa is a Zygerian Jedi. The only other time we've ever seen this species is in the Clone Wars. They tell the Nemoidians that they are looking for a former Jedi, Osha Anisea. This confirms a lot. Osha was once a part of the Jedi Order. Yord finds Osha, and although Osha seems very excited to see Yord, he does not reciprocate the emotions, as he's currently there because he thinks that Osha is the one who murdered Master Indara. Osha asks why Yord is there, what is going on, as his apprentice starts to ask her questions, like how long has she been a mech tech. This gives us a lot of information about this character of Osha. She left the Jedi Order 6 years ago, and was brought in by the Jedi Order at the age of 8, which is usually too old to be a Jedi youngling. However, we have seen exceptions before, and usually those don't work out too well. But the fact that she was older was not the only issue. She was also in mourning. She was brought into the Jedi Order because her whole family was killed. Yord says attachments to the ones that we've lost are the most difficult to let go. The reason that Osha left the Jedi Order is because of her attachment to her family. Sound familiar? Now, I'm not saying that Osha's going to turn all Anakin on us and become Darth Vader, but I wouldn't rely on her not to turn on the Jedi at any moment, especially when it comes to her twin sister. But we'll get to that. Yord tells Osha that somebody has murdered Master Indara, and the person that did matches her description. Osha says, "Why would I ever kill Master Indara?" And Yord says, "From what I remember, Indara was the one who requested you to be taken out of the Jedi Order." Seems like enough motive for Yord. And as Osha says, "Do you really think I'm capable of murdering a fully trained Jedi?" The bartender from the cantina walks in the door and says, "That's her. She's the one who killed the Jedi." So they put her on a prison transport back to Coruscant. Then we cut to Coruscant. And let's be honest, guys, Coruscant looks unbelievably cool in this show, straight out of the prequel trilogy with better CGI. We see Master Sol teaching a lesson to some younglings to connect with the Force. His lesson is interrupted by Venestra Rowe, who is one of the characters I mentioned before that is from the High Republic novels. We also see her in one of the trailers using a laser whip, but that will come later. Master Sol asks, how can he be of service? To which Indara responds with, "I'm sure you've heard the news that Master Indara has died." Well, they have a suspect in custody, his old Padawan, Osha. And as Sol takes a minute to respond, Venestra says, "I underestimated your attachment to her, as Jedi are not supposed to have attachments." And Venestra Rowe is a Jedi who plays by the rules. And as we learn throughout these 2 episodes, Master Sol really doesn't. Sol is a very interesting character. He reminds me a lot of Qui-Gon Jinn from The Phantom Menace. And I must say, Lee Jang-cha, who plays Master Sol, has been fan-frickin-tastic so far. Sol says there's no way that Osha would have killed Indara. Indara was one of the Jedi who helped him save Osha on Brendok. Another Jedi walks in the room as Venestra gets closer and whispers to Sol that if word gets out that a former Jedi is killing one of our own, and Sol responds with, "Our political enemies could use it against us." Already, 100 years before The Phantom Menace, the Jedi are worried about politics. And slowly but surely,
and don't call me Shirley,
the Jedi become politicians by the time of the prequel trilogy, and that's how they fall. But we're seeing the cracks start to appear in this show 100 years before. We cut back to the prison transport, which is being piloted by droids. And these droids are really cool because they're just the seats of the ship. So far, the Acolyte has impressed me. New ships, new droids, and just this new feel for Star Wars, even though it still feels like Star Wars. As she looks next to her and sees this guy on the floor with this weird creature on his mouth. Another prisoner calls it a Dybbuk. This looks very similar to what's known as face huggers from the movie Alien. But in Star Wars, it's a parasite used to subdue violent criminals. The other criminals ask her if she really did kill the Jedi, to which she says, of course, no. But they're planning an escape to hijack this plane because it's being piloted by droids and use the escape pods to get away. And this escape plan works. Not without the help from this very strange new alien character in Star Wars. This very long tentacle comes out of his head and wraps up C-3PO on steroids. They come out of hyperspace and the other criminals escape in the escape pods, leaving Osha with no way out. So she has to crash land with the ship.
Another happy landing.
We cut back to Coruscant where we see Master Soul looking at a hologram of Osha. He clearly has attachments, which the Jedi are not supposed to have. Very similar, again, to Qui-Gon Jinn. We then see for the first time his new Padawan, Jackie. Jackie's played by Daphne Keane, who you might know from the movie Logan, and now she's in Star Wars as a Jedi Padawan. She asks Soul why he keeps old holograms of his old Padawan. And he says if we don't meditate on the past, then we're doomed to repeat it, which makes sense, but it's still not the Jedi way. We then see that the prisoners that escaped the transport just got picked right back up by the Republic and made their way to Coruscant as Venestra Rowe and Master Soul interrogate one of the prisoners. Soul uses the Jedi mind trick on him and asks what happened to the young woman. Venestra says that they dispatched probe droids to the planet of Karlok to see if Osha survived the crash, and Soul asks permission to go find Osha himself. Soul says that he trained Osha and it's his problem to go get her back. We then cut back to Osha, who is now woken up in the crashed ship on Karlak. She hears somebody nearby as she sees a creepy little child. Sorry, I didn't know Star Wars was going into the horror genre. I nearly pooped my pants. We then cut back to Coruscant where Master Soul and Jackie are leaving, and he says we need some more help. And Jackie says, you mean Yord? And somebody in the live watch party mentioned this, and it's spot on. Yord is this show's Jar Jar Binks. He's kind of annoying and kind of the comic relief as they walk onto the ship and see Yord steaming his Jedi robes. We cut back to Osha, who is now chasing this little girl through a blizzard. The girl stops and turns around, and Osha recognizes her as a young version of her twin sister May, who she thought died 16 years ago on Brendok, as May begins to have a Force vision, very similar to what Rey has in The Force Awakens when she picks up Anakin's lightsaber. We see May go back to Brendok and see it on fire. Osha says, is it really you, May? I thought you had died. And May responds with yes. Osha asks if she's really the one who killed Master Indara, and she responds yes, as her eyes turn to black and she says, I will kill them all. Not referring to all the Jedi, but referring to 4 particular Jedi. But we'll get to that. As the wind begins to blow and Osha wakes up again on the crashed ship, it was all just a Force dream. We cut back to Master Soul, Yord, and Jackie flying through hyperspace, and we get a lot of information about what happened 16 years ago, at least from Master Soul's perspective. Soul says that he was posted on Brendok, and it was Osha's sister May that started a fire that killed their entire family. Osha was the only survivor, and he took her on as her Padawan. Jackie asks if it's possible that the twin is still alive and that she's the one killing the Jedi, and Soul says no, that's impossible. May is dead. He saw her die. But something's not adding up. First of all, as the audience, we know that May's alive. And second of all, how does Soul think that he saw her die if she didn't? They arrive at the planet in the wrecked ship, and Osha's not there. Yord seems to think that she died in the wreckage, but Soul senses her, and they go running after her. Osha goes into a cave where she comes across a dead end, a cliff. And as the Jedi find her, she screams, I didn't do it. You have to believe me. And Soul does. Osha almost falls off the cliff, but Soul saves her as she tells him that May is still alive. And he says, you need to come with us. The episode ends on an unknown planet. Every planet in both episodes so far have been given a title, except for this one. Now, many fans believe that this could be Ahch-To from The Last Jedi, which is the place of the original Jedi created by Jedi Prime. But tell me in the comment section below if you think this is Ahch-To. We hear the mysterious masked Sith Lord talking to May. He's been dubbed Darth Zipperface. He says that Jedi live in a dream that they believe that everybody shares with them. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser has no threat to them, but an acolyte kills the dream. As May looks out at Darth Zipperface as he ignites a red lightsaber, and the first episode ends. begins. Now talk about a great start. Now this first episode is a little bit slower pace-wise, but it has a lot to accomplish, introducing not only May as the villain murdering Jedi, but also her twin sister Osha, and creating a big difference in both characters. And not only that, but establishing a brand new world and a brand new cast of Jedi while they're at it. This first episode did it extremely well, and for that, I give it an 8 out of 10. An extremely good start to the show, with even better on the way, establishing a mystery that will be played out through 8 episodes. Which brings us to episode 2, titled Revenge/Justice. The titles of these episodes are sort of from a certain point of view. The first episode being Lost/Found, and the second episode being Revenge/Justice. From one point of view, what May is doing can be seen as revenge, and from another, it could be justice. This episode opens on the planet Olega, and honestly, this town looks like it's straight out of Game of Thrones, and it looks incredible. But there's a local Jedi temple on this planet, and we see as May breaks into this Jedi temple to try to kill the Jedi Master, Torben. Torben is currently meditating, and there's sort of a force shield around him. It's established later on that Torben has been like this for 10 years, and he hasn't even said a single word in 10 years. But May tries to kill him with no success. She can't get through the force field around him. And right before another Jedi enters the room after hearing all the commotion, May escapes, failing at her second attempt of murdering one of these Jedi. We then go back to Karlak, where we have a conversation between Yord and Master Sol. Yord is still concerned about Osha being the one who murdered Indara, as Sol explains to him that Osha hasn't been training to be a Jedi for 6 years. You really think you could take down Master Indara, who's trained her entire life? To which Yord responds, let's say this whole twin theory is true. Isn't it possible that the two of them could be working together? To which Sol says, don't let your fear affect your judgment.
Fear is the path to the dark side.
As Yoda even said in the prequel trilogy, unknowing that the Jedi have become corrupted by the dark side and corrupted by fear. And again, the Acolyte is just showing the beginning of that. We then see Sol have a conversation with the hologram of Venestra Rho. He tells her about the twin, May, and Venestra Rho believes him because another suspect matching Osha's description has just attacked another Jedi temple. And it's impossible for it to be Osha because she's currently with Master Sol. And Sol asks, should he go investigate or come back to Coruscant? And Venestra Rho tells him to go investigate. Osha could actually be an asset at this point because they know she's not the murderer. So we cut back to Oleg where we see May going into a shop in town. This is where we're first introduced to the character of Qimir. And honestly, I think this might be the most important and interesting character of the show so far. He's clearly hiding a lot. And he also knows Darth Zipperface. He was drinking the night before, so he's asleep as May wakes him up.
You wanna buy some death sticks?
May asks what he's wearing, and he says it's what the guy who worked here before was wearing. He's trying to blend in. Qimir asks if she killed the guy, meaning he's working with May in some sort of way and knows what her mission is. May tells him what happened. She couldn't get anywhere close to him because of this force field around him. May asks him to make her a poison, and this is where things get interesting. As Qimir says, you think a sleeping monk is going to be tough to kill? Good luck defeating the Wookiee. This confirms my theory that all the flashback scenes that we've seen in the trailers for this Acolyte show are on Brendok, where May and Osha are from, and whatever happened that night 16 years ago is extremely important. And the 4 Jedi that were there are Master Indara, Master Sol, and Kelnaka, the Wookiee Jedi that we see at the end of this episode. May's goal is to exact revenge on these 4 characters. But why? What did they do to her? From Sol's point of view, May is the one who started the fire and killed her entire family. But maybe that's not what really happened. May looks at Qimir and tells him that she has 2 Jedi to kill after Torben, and she has to kill one of them without a weapon to please the Master. She refers to Darth Zipperface as the Master, but she doesn't know his name. Qimir makes May this poison, a poison made from witch's magic from her home planet of Brendok. And as May is about to leave, she turns around and says it wouldn't bode well for either of us if we told him about this, meaning her failing to kill the Jedi the first time, which also means that Qimir also talks to Darth Zipperface, not just May, making this Qimir character way more important than we've ever imagined. We then get a very interesting conversation between Master Sol and Osha. She asks her if May is capable of murdering these Jedi, and Osha says it's really the only way to explain all of this. She also says this means that somehow May survived, even though we both saw her die. But Sol says he tried to save both of them that night on Brendok. Osha says, I know you did. Master Soul says, I've made my peace with what happened that night. But Osha never could. As they arrive to Oleg, May is now making her second attempt at killing Master Torben, as the Jedi are just right outside. May says to Torben, I know why you are in this meditation, because the past still haunts him. Outside, Master Soul tells the other Jedi that he wants to go talk to Master Torben. And he says that's going to be a little bit difficult because he hasn't talked for over 10 years. And Soul says that he will talk to him. He's an old friend. Back inside, May tells Corbin that you have to confess for what you did. Again, what did he do? All 4 of these Jedi that May is after were all on Brendok with her 16 years ago. What happened? May puts the poison down in front of him as he opens his eyes and comes down from his meditation. As he says, I've been waiting for you, May. He says, forgive me. We thought we were doing the right thing, as he picks up the poison and drinks it himself. What is going on? We need these flashback sequences immediately to explain all of this. But Torben dies of his own free will, and May escapes. The Jedi come in the room to this dead body, and they realize that he was poisoned, and that he drank it willingly. Osha recognizes that the poison is created by something called Bunta, which is only found on her home world of Brendok. And it's distilled, and the effects don't last for that long, so it had to be created nearby. They ask any of the Jedi who are usually at this temple if anybody looks different, and he points out qimir. Jackie comes up with the plan to have Osha go in there looking like May to convince qimir to admit to what he did. Soul agrees to this plan and gives Osha a stun gun. This is an older variation of the stun gun, clearly. Another very cool add-on because this show takes place 100 years before anything else. May goes in to talk to qimir, and she's clearly not acting like May because he sees something off. But qimir admits to making the poison, as he says, did the poison work? But he says, wait, did you kill him without the poison? He will be so pleased. Referring to Darth Zipperface. The Jedi say that's enough and they come running in. Before they come in, qimir says, you look exactly like her. Again, something's way off with this guy. I don't know what it is, but we're going to learn a lot more about this character. The Jedi come running in, and Master Soul says if you cooperate, then we'll maybe let you go. Soul asks what his relationship is to May, and he says he's just a supplier. Soul asks who is he? Does May have a master? And qimir says, look, I don't know anything about this girl. All I know is that she's trying to murder 4 Jedi, which confirms the theory. But he also says that she's coming back here tonight, and they can catch her later on. So we flash forward to later that night, and after Yord says,
I have a bad feeling about this,
Jecki says that Master Soul wants to face May on his own, as we see May arrive. And we get this amazing fight sequence between May and Master Soul. Cannot emphasize this enough. The choreography and fight sequences in this show are insanely well put together. Soul is trying to find out who trained May throughout this entire fight. He's led to believe that it's some ex-Jedi or a current Jedi. But as he bests her, he begins to read her mind. Very similar to the way that Kylo Ren reads people's minds in the sequel trilogy. But he reads her mind and says that she couldn't even tell him who her master is, because he's never seen his face before. But Soul even says, after all this time, your thoughts still go to your sister. And May says, my sister is dead. What? So Osha and Soul thought that May died, and May thought that Osha died. What happened 16 years ago on Brendok? May gets pushed into a corner, and when it looks like there's no escape, she kicks up a bunch of dust using the Force as a distraction to finally get away. As she starts to run, she goes to hijack a speeder, and she comes into contact with her sister, Osha. This is the first time the two have come face to face in 16 years. Osha puts up the stun gun, and instead of stunning her and bringing her in, she misses. On purpose. Right? May ends up getting away. We then cut to Master Soul talking to Vanestra Rho again as a hologram, as Vanestra says that she has convened a small council to discuss the next steps. And Soul says, with all due respect, we don't have time. We know where May is going next, to find Kelnaka. But Vanestra says no, we have to have a council meeting and come up with this decision together, as the hologram goes away. We cut to the next day as May confronts qimir, and immediately qimir bests May. After we've seen May murder 2 Jedi now and fight against Master Soul, she gets bested by qimir like it's nothing. Again, leading me to believe that there is so much more to this character than we ever imagined. May says, you turned me in. Qimir says, let me make it up to you. We can get off this planet and go to Kofa. May says, what the hell's on Kofa? And qimir says, it's where the Wookiee Jedi lives. So not only does this guy also know who Darth Zipperface is, but now he somehow found where Kelnaka's been hiding. Something ain't right. But the two run off to try to escape the planet as we cut to Kofa. We see two characters speaking Huttese as they are lost in the forest. They come across a crashed ship as they are met by our Wookiee Jedi named Kelnaka. He is hiding in solitude in the middle of nowhere. As he walks in what looks to be Shrek's swamp, the episode ends. I mean, come on. This second episode I give an 8.8 out of 10. I think it was substantially better than the first episode, but it gave us so much. From introducing the most intriguing character so far of Qimir to giving us so much more information about what could have possibly happened 16 years ago on Brendock with Master Tobin and why he took the poison himself. There was so much going on in this episode. But tell me what you think in the comment section below. Rank these two episodes out of 10. Tell me, did the Acolyte premiere live up to your expectations? And are you looking forward to more of this show? Tell me what you think in the comment section below. And do you think we will see Master Yoda in this series make some sort of cameo appearance? I explain why I think Yoda definitely will be in this show in this video right here.